you've been following Ukrainian social media lately, you may have noticed that there was a lot of Laura Loomer there. You may even have had an impression that Ukrainians are so fascinated with her visit that they started making a hero out of her. But things are more complicated than you think. Yes, Laura Loomer's visit to Kyiv has been making headlines, and many Ukrainians have been discussing it. But does that mean Ukraine has suddenly fallen in love with her? No, not at all. In fact, many Ukrainians remain deeply skeptical of her. They remember that she previously echoed narratives favorable to Russia, and some openly question whether her recent shift is sincere. For Ukrainians, the main question is who Laura Loomer can reach. She has a large audience among supporters of Donald Trump, an audience that Ukrainian officials, journalists, and diplomats have often struggled to persuade. If someone influential within that community starts talking differently about Ukraine, people notice. After visiting Ukraine, Loomer said that she had been misled by Russian propaganda and that seeing the country firsthand changed her perspective. Ukrainian officials welcomed her visit, emphasizing that personal experience is one of the best ways to counter disinformation. Serhiy Kislitsa, first deputy head of the Office of the President, said, quote, "It was interesting to sit down and talk to Laura Loomer. Seeing how Putin droned the heart of Christianity is a very powerful and moving experience. Thank you, Laura Loomer, for taking the initiative and traveling to Ukraine now." End of quote. In Ukrainian society, reactions were quite different. Some were openly enthusiastic. One widely shared Ukrainian post called her visit a great piece of luck for Ukraine because her reporting from Kyiv could influence Trump supporters. Ordinary realities of life in wartime, such as Russian missile attacks, could have a much stronger impact on Americans when shown by someone they already trust. But some people were, quite skeptical. They say that Loomer's change of position wasn't really about discovering the truth. It just reflected changing political realities. But at the end of the day, who cares, they said. If her new position helps Ukraine, that's good news. Roman Sheremetyev, a Ukrainian economist and professor, wrote that he had mixed feelings after watching Loomer's interview with President Zelensky. He criticized parts of the interview, saying some questions sounded like they came straight from the Russian propaganda playbook. He also questioned whether the broader shift among some MAGA influencers was entirely genuine. However, he also ended on an optimistic note. He wrote that he was still glad if at least some MAGA supporters were genuinely beginning to change their minds about Ukraine. So people disagree about Laura Loomer's motives. Some believe she sincerely changed her mind. Others think it's political convenience. Some are somewhere in between, but they all arrive at the same conclusion. If someone with influence over an audience that has often been skeptical of Ukraine starts telling a different story, that's strategically important. And this tells us a lot about how Ukrainians think during wartime. Information war is very important. And in that kind of war, is it good or bad? You basically don't care about the motives. You care about the reach. Can this person reach an audience that we can't? So back to the question in the beginning. No, Ukrainians don't suddenly admire Laura Loomer. Most of them don't even trust her. But they understand that sometimes changing one influential voice can influence millions of people who would never listen to Ukraine directly. Laura Loomer is their bridge to conservative Americans, to Trump's audience. She is the courier, if you will, in Ukraine's fight with Russia.